Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this podcast, what I want to talk about is a wild night. This night took place way back in the day, back in the 90s when I was in college. I will initially begin by saying that the names that I will use in this story aren't the names of the actual people, and this is to protect the guilty. If you're familiar with this story, at least to me, it never gets old. Understand that this story is set in the 90s. And if you didn't live through the 90s, or you just, wasn't cool enough to come outside, things were kind of wild in the 90s. So I want to apologize up front. Okay. So my recollection of this story, basically, wild things happen in college. Or at least it did for me. And I went to, a historically black college, South Carolina State University. Shout out to my alma mater. Shout out to all HBCUs. And in the 90s in particular, what was really, really cool about HBCUs and my school in particular, like each day, you never knew what was going to happen. And that was one of the beauties of being in college, is that you just didn't know on a day-to-day basis what was going to happen. There was always something interesting. There was always something funny. There was always something crazy happening, right? So you really, from my perspective, I look forward to each day. I played football, so that made things that much better for me, if you will. High visibility kid, and I was popular. I'm not going to say that I wasn't, but I was pretty popular. But that's not even the point. The point is that things happen. And so really, when I look back on it, sometimes things happen, or things that happened back in the day, I'm like, man, I wish we had the technology, because keep in mind, I was in college from 1991 to 1996, right? So when I was in school, technology wasn't as advanced as it is now. Translation: there were no cell phones. Cell phones existed, but not like that. You had a car phone. You had a brick phone if you were rich enough to afford one. Pagers weren't a thing. Caller ID didn't exist. The internet was in its infancy. I remember one of my best friends. We would write each other. She went to Duke, and shout out to Jamel. And we would write each other. And I remember she wrote me one time. She said, "Well, here's my electronic mail address." And I was like, when I wrote it back, I was like, electronic mail? What the hell is that? I'm mailing this letter right now. I don't need electronics. So I want to kind of give you that setting as to how things were in the 90s, right? So there was a lot of, particularly in for young men, there was a lot of misogynistic behavior and language, back in the day. Because again, we were wild in the 90s. That's really about the easiest way I can explain it. But the 90s it was really wild. So I got a story for you. And I remember this like it was yesterday, right? So it was a Thursday night, and we chilling in the dorm. And Thursday nights were always really cool because it's the end of the week. So we had this thing called Thursdays, right? So Thursdays, cats would get drunk in the dorm and then maybe go to a party or go to a club or something like that. Now, full disclosure, I didn't drink when I was in college. I didn't drink the whole time I was in college. Didn't take my first drink until I was 26 years old. So I'm a late bloomer. And the reason why I didn't drink, because I honestly did not feel the need to drink. It wasn't something I needed. So, and plus I came from, a background of grandfathers who were alcoholics. So, I didn't need it. And I'm very much a social drinker now. Like, I'll drink every now and then. I've never been the come home, I got to get a beer type of guy. Right. So anyway, so we'd have Thirsty Thursdays, and then a lot of people would go out to clubs or whatever like that. So what happened was, this particular night, it was Thirsty Thursday. And I always, for you listening, I always like being around my teammates in particular on Thirsty Thursdays, because they would get drunk and like they would tell like the funniest stories, right? And so it was always comical being around my teammates, and I love them to death, man. It's nothing I wouldn't do for any of them. So Thursday Thursdays were always interesting. And there was this club that we used to go to called the Ritz. And so this particular night, we weren't going to the Ritz because I had a project due the next day for my international marketing class. I was a marketing major, right? And so international marketing, we had a project due that was due on Friday. And so that particular night, I'm staying in the dorm. And anybody knows me knows that my right-hand man, one of my, closest friends, my teammate, my boy Mo. So Mo was also a marketing major as well. So Mo came to my room, and I went to Mo's room. I'm sorry. And we were working on this project. And again, it was due the next morning at 10 o'clock. So as much as I wanted to go to, Club Ritz, I just couldn't, because I had too much work. And as typical me and Mo style, we were waiting until the last. I think we got the assignment like maybe 2 weeks prior to, and so me and Mo didn't do it until the last minute. That's really just how we got down. So we're in the dorm, and we're kind of contemplating as to how we're gonna do this project, because he's doing his, I'm doing mine, and we're kind of tossing ideas back and forth. Sort of helping each other out, but not turning in the same work. And we were kind of, both of us were kind of sad, because this particular night, almost everybody was going to Club Ritz. Foxy 44 had closed. I'm sorry. So Club Ritz, like this particular night, almost everybody was going to Club Ritz. That's all everybody was talking about. And this was going to be dope, because this was right around the time when the weather broke. And trust me when I tell you, there's no better time on an HBCU campus is when the weather breaks. When the weather breaks, you start seeing people from everywhere, people you never even seen before, people who you didn't even know went to school. You start seeing them around campus, right? And so this was the first weekend where it was going to be really, really warm. And so, everybody was headed to, Club Ritz, except me and Mo. And so most of our teammates were going to Club Ritz. So, we're kind of like the, redheaded stepchildren still in the building. We're still chilling or whatever. And so we're doing our work. And it's funny because Mo and I were just talking. We were talking about the project, and then Mo mentioned, he said, "Hey, man, I was downstairs earlier and I saw this dude. Let's just call him Nathan." He's like, "Yo, I saw Nathan, and he was talking to this other guy named Terry, and he told Terry, I overheard him tell Terry, yo, it's on again tonight." And I was like, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, I didn't know what he meant at first." And then he said, "I saw Nathan later on, in the calf, and he told somebody else it's on again tonight. And he said, I didn't really know what to make of it. He said, I just assumed that they got a chick coming through. Now, for those of you who are at home and you don't know what that means, is that there had to have been some girl that was coming through. Now, I don't know if this girl was what she was doing for them or whatever the case may be, but she was doing something. And the way that Mo interpreted, which is the way that he told it to me, was that this was something that was happening for the second or third or fourth time. Because he said it's on again tonight. And he said this to multiple people. So we're only left to assume is that, this was a often occurrence, if you will. And so, so that was going down. Now, one thing you quickly learn, or at least one of the things I quickly learned at South Carolina State, just being in college in general in the 90s, is that if there's some type of group sex going down, you don't want to be part of it. Right. And the reason being, one is low key nasty as hell. And then two, like, you never know how things can be interpreted or perceived, if you will, because you might think, okay, hey, we're just, I'll use me and Mo as an example. Okay, let's say I meet this girl. I'm like, yo, I want you to get down with me and my man. And she says, okay. And you thinking everything's cool. And then, everything's consensual. And then later on, if she, whatever the case may be, if she feels as though it wasn't consensual, or if she, felt some kind of way, or whatever the case may be, the story could change. Right. And we see that in this day and time happen a lot. Not to say that that's okay, because it's not. So I don't want, as I'm telling the story, I don't want anybody listening to think that, anybody was violated or anything like that. But that type of stuff did happen, right? And it happens a lot, unfortunately, on college campuses. And, it's something that we as people, we as parents have to talk to our children about. More so our sons than our daughters, to be honest, because it's a lot of bad and misogynistic behaviors that have to be stopped. And it starts with men. So let me just go ahead and get that out and open. So, again, and I don't take sexual assault lightly at all, right? So I knew from the beginning, like, if something like that was going down, you don't want to be around, because I just kind of picture myself as, if there's, one girl and 5 guys, I'm going to be the one that gets picked out of the lineup. You know what I'm saying? So I learned to just kind of stay away from those scenes. No, and plus, if I'm having sex, I really just wanted to be me and you. I don't work well with others around. I don't need any company. I don't need anybody watching me. So anyway, let's get back to the shits. So again, Mo's telling me the story that he heard Nathan tell multiple people, quote unquote, it's on again tonight. So again, based on what he told the people and the way that Mo told me the story, I was only left to assume that a girl was coming through and she was going to break them off. Did I want a part of that? Hell no. But it was going down. So anyway, and again, this dude, Nathan, I know him, but I don't know him. I know him by face. I know him, as in a guy that lived in the dorm. If I see him, I say, what's up? And keep it moving. I didn't know anything else about him. I could tell you where he's from, but I'm not going to tell you where he's from. But that's about it. I didn't know the guy. But, So apparently this is about to go down. So Mo is telling me this. And so we're still doing our project, what have you. And what was really, really weird about it is that in our dorm, we were on the 3rd floor. So all of my teammates, all the football players in this particular dorm lived on the 3rd floor. There might have been 1 or 2 on the 2nd floor. The other athletes, basketball players, tennis, golf, those guys on the 1st floor. Now, this dude, Nathan, and Terry and the other guys that he was talking to, they weren't athletes, because it wasn't all athletes in our particular dorm. But, a lot of athletes were in the dorm. But at this particular time, from what I could remember, Nathan and the guys that he ran with weren't athletes. Okay. Not that it matters, but they just weren't. And one of the things that was really, really eerie about that night was, and I distinctly remember this, it was like 9, maybe 10 o'clock, and the dorm was quiet. You didn't hear nobody making no noise. You didn't hear no, because normally, you hear music, cats got the doors open, playing music or whatever like that. And like, again, it was warm. You might have the windows up, whatever the case may be, right? So it's pretty silent. Me and Mo actually have the door open because we're starting to get a little warm in his room. And so we open the door just to get a little air. So anyway, some time passed, and I'd never forget. We was sitting there. We took a break. I think we went to McDonald's, came back, got something to eat, came back in the dorm. We're doing our work, and a couple of hours passed or whatever like that. And one of our teammates, and again, this is like, by this time it's probably about 10, maybe 10:30, right? One of our teammates came by, and he said, "Yo, have y'all been on the 1st floor?" And I was like, "Nah." He was like, "Well, there's a line." He's like, "There's a line of dudes at Nathan's door downstairs on the 1st floor." I was like, "Word?" I said, "A line?" I said, "How many people?" He's like, "Man, it's got to be at least 10 dudes." He said, and he said it's like 4 or 5 dudes in the room now. He's like, "They got some girl in there." And I was like, 4 or 5? Damn. I mean, the numbers the numbers just look kind of crazy to me just by saying that, right? So, and I said, "Well, who's in there?" He said, "I don't know the dudes that's in there." He was like, "I just saw some dudes standing outside," right? So he was like, I ain't even messing with that. He was like, I got some work to do." So the scene is set, basically. So let me backtrack just in case you didn't get it. About 10 guys standing in a line outside, in a line in the hallway, and 4 or 5 guys in the room with this girl, and the lights are off, right? So anyway, I think probably about 20, 25 minutes passed. And next thing you know, we just hear a bunch of yelling. And I don't know where the yells were coming from, but it was just like, it was a distinct yell and you heard just a whole bunch of ruckus. And what happened was Mo had his window open, and his window faced the courtyard, because there was a courtyard in between both sides of the dorms. And so, through the window, you could hear a bunch of yelling and screaming. And I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And so, the same dude came back by, and he was like, "What's all that noise?" And so me and Mo were like, "We don't know what that noise is." So he was like, "I'll go check it out." And he didn't even go all the way downstairs. He went like to the elevator. He was about to go downstairs, and somebody stopped him and said, "Hey, don't go downstairs. Something's going on." And I guess that was like, "Look, whatever's going down, you don't want to implicate yourself in people thinking you were downstairs, so you stay right here." So he's like, "Just chill right here." So again, it was making all this loud noise. So then it sounded like something was, I heard a smash, right? And so when we heard a smash, me and Mo was like, yo, let's go down there and see what the hell is going on. So we took the stairs and we went downstairs, and then we just saw a bunch of guys just running. Like, there was a basement part of the dorm, and nobody, I mean, like, you had no reason to go into the basement because there was nothing down there. It's like a furnace and something else, but there was nothing else down there. And so we went downstairs. We saw the guys run through the door and go downstairs. So we were like, Mo and I just looked at each other like, man, what the hell? Why? Where are they running? Because keep in mind, all we know is that there was a girl, there were 10 guys, and maybe another 4 in the room, and that was it. So we don't know where this ruckus is coming from. So we're trying to figure out, okay, well, did the girl run downstairs? I mean, like, is she okay? Like, who is this? Where's this? And I mean, like, it literally looked like a mob of dudes. It was only like maybe 6 or 7 guys, but just imagine 6 or 7 guys running through a dorm hallway, running downstairs. So Mo and I kind of looked at each other like, should we be going down here? We're like, fuck it, let's go, let's see. And so we go downstairs, and by the time we get downstairs, I'm hearing screaming. I'm hearing screams. I mean, loud screams. And I'm like, oh my God, are they killing this girl? And so we go downstairs, and the door is kind of stuck, right? And so I'm pulling on the door. I can't really get it open. Mo pulls on the door. He can't really get it open. And again, we're still hearing this scream. So I push Mo to the side, and I yank on the door really, really hard, and the door flies open. Mo and I step in, and we see like 7 or 8 guys. And then the next thing I know, we're hearing these screams, and then the person that was screaming, the girl runs. I mean, like, I couldn't see it because, again, it was kind of dark in there. Runs right past me through the door, right? Runs right past me and Mo. I mean, like, so fast to the point where I couldn't even look and see, who it was or whatever the case may be. I couldn't get a good look at her or anything. I don't remember anything. And so so she ran past me and Mo. She ran back up the stairs into the courtyard. And as she's running into the courtyard, somebody, I couldn't even believe it. Somebody took a chair and threw it, and it hit the back of her leg, and her shoe came off. And so she runs through the courtyard, through the front door, out of the dorm. And I think she got in the car and took off. And so by this time, the guys are running up behind her and everything like that. And then everybody kind of comes outside, and then we all kind of walk back. Because we're like, at this point, again, Mo and I are clueless. We don't know what just happened. All we know is that a girl was in the dorm. She was in a room, and they were, getting busy. Right. So at that point, again, we don't know. Nobody's saying anything. All we know is just guys make a bunch of noise, a bunch of yelling, whatever the case may be. So then somebody walked back into the courtyard, and they grabbed the shoe, and they walked back into. So all of us, it's at least, I don't know, maybe about 20 guys. We're all kind of standing in the lobby trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Because again, very little of it I actually saw. What I saw, I couldn't make out with my own 2 eyes, to be honest. It happened so fast, right? Because she ran every bit of like a 240 up out of there. And so somebody grabbed the shoe, and they walked back in, and they said, yo, whose shoe is this? And Mo and I looked at each other. We had our shoes on. So, I mean, everybody that was standing in the lobby had their shoes on. And they looked at the shoe. And it was a man's shoe. Okay. And so somebody said, yo, she had that shoe on. And then somebody else looked in the courtyard and found a stocking cap. Yo, whose stocking cap is this? Apparently, she had on stocking cap as well. And so we are quickly determining that she wasn't necessarily a she. It was a he. Oh, how the plot thickens. So here's what we found out very quickly. The young lady that they thought was in the room giving head wasn't a young lady. It was a guy. So at this point, when we see when we saw the shoe and the stocking cap, it was almost like the light bulbs kind of went off in everybody's head. Everybody who wasn't in the room or who wasn't down there, which it was a handful of us who had just kind of came downstairs because of the commotion. And then there was other guys who had run and chased the person downstairs because they were upset to find out that it was a guy, and I guess they wanted revenge. So in the midst of all of this, Nathan comes into the lobby. And by this time, everybody's like looking at him like he's crazy. Like, okay. And so everybody's making noise. And I just, I don't know why I did this, but I was like, hold on. Everybody shut up. Everybody shut up. Everybody shut the fuck up. Nathan, was that a dude in your room? I asked him point blank in front of everybody as loud as I could. I said, was that a dude in your? I said, the fellas want to know right now. And of course, I wasn't in the room, so I don't care one way or the other. But this was just so hilarious to me. I said, was that a dude in your room? His response was, I don't know. All you heard was, and the fellas just went crazy. I mean, like it was dudes in there that was about to fight Nathan. And I was like, wait a minute. Y'all were in a room getting head from somebody that you didn't know was a woman. I mean, like you didn't check her out. You didn't touch her. You didn't look at her. But apparently, as the story was told to us, this is something that had been happening every other Thursday. And the person would be snuck into the room and, the little bit of that person that I saw, I didn't see a wig. I didn't see any makeup. I didn't see anything. And I mean, he ran so fast past me, but at first glance, I'm like, that's not, a woman's not built like that. I mean, I know what a man is built like, and I know what a woman's built like. Right. And so this is like interesting. This is like interestingly funny at this point, because I'm like, how are y'all in a room with a girl that ain't a girl? Right. And y'all in there to get your Jimmy waxed. Shout out to the 90s. You're in there to get your Jimmy waxed, and it's a dude. Oh, the jokes. Oh my gosh. This at this point now, the whole room is so and when I asked him that, like I said, everybody just kind of lost it. And Mo and I just looked at each other and we were dying laughing. And, Nathan tried to explain his story to the mob of fellas that had basically congregated in the lobby of the dorm. And ain't nobody really wanted to hear it. And apparently what happened was what had happened was somebody turned the lights on, right? And when they turned the lights on, they realized that it wasn't a woman. Now, how they got this guy into the dorm, I ain't even ask. And I will be the first to say that them making an attempt to assault this young man, that ain't cool. It wasn't cool at all. And apparently when they found out, that's how he ended up in the basement, because he broke out. He was scared and he thought that they were going to beat him up, which they were trying to do. And apparently I found out later that a few in the room got a couple of swings in, and that's not cool. That's not cool. Even if he did deceive them, you don't beat up somebody because of their sexual orientation. So that's not cool. But again, in the 90s, and I'm not making light of, what happened in the 90s, we were kind of wild in the 90s. Nonetheless, this whole story was downright comical to me. So Mo and I, we are literally on the floor in tears, laughing like y'all can't get, like you can't. There's no way that you can make me believe that you had this person in the dorm multiple times and nobody vetted to see if this was a woman. So all y'all just lined up just to get your Jimmy Wax, and it took for somebody to turn the light on for you to realize that this wasn't a woman. You ain't touched no breath, no nothing, no boot. Come on, bruh. You lying. You lying. Oh my gosh. So Mo and I laughed and laughed and laughed. And then by this time, other guys, like our teammates and stuff, started to trickle in from the club, and other people coming in from the club and stuff like that. Oh my gosh. This was hilarious. The stories that we heard and everything. And then we started looking around to see who was in that room, because there were a couple of guys who, they were chasing pretty hard. And the ones that I heard got in a couple of swings. That's all I'll say. So suffice to say, once the rest of the dorm came in, it just became a night of comedy. So many jokes were told. I could tell you so much more, but I don't want to implicate anybody. But the jokes were flying, if you will. I had girls calling me from the different dorms. And it's funny because I remember somebody telling me, somebody told me that they heard it as soon as one girl, she said she heard it as soon as she got back in it. She's like, oh, the dudes in Mitchell Hall, they got some more freak shit going on. Oh man. So yeah. So the next morning, so me and Mo, we stayed up, man, probably about 2-3 o'clock, and we could have and really should have been finished with our projects, but it was just too much stuff going on. We were calling people, we were telling everybody that we heard, that we knew about it. It was so funny to me. And not funny in the sense that they, again, someone's sexual orientation, but it's funny to me that, and I refuse, even to this day, I refuse to believe that these young men had someone in the dorm that they didn't know what she looked like or anything like that, and they just went into a dark room just to get head. I'm sorry, I don't believe that, and that's what they tried to spin it as. Like, look, we didn't. Even the guys that were in there were like, yo, we didn't know. I'm like, bro, who you trying to play, man? Come on, man, really? Who you trying to play? You can't even make anybody with any kind of sense remotely believe that, that this is just happenstance. This is not. There's no way that it could have happened. But again, to me, it was pure comedy. It was pure comedy. So Mo and I, we stayed up to about 2, maybe 3 o'clock doing our project. We went the next morning. We went to go work out, lift weights or whatever like that. By the time we got to the calf at 7:30, even the lady who was passing out the food in the calf, she was like, "Oh, I heard y'all had it going on in the dorm last night." We were like, "No, ma'am. No, Miss Johnson. That's not us. That's not us." And so, so by this time, Nathan is literally the laughing stock of campus. I don't know what happened to Nathan. Honestly, I don't think Nathan finished the semester at South Carolina State University. If you know anybody that went to South Carolina State during this particular time, they know this story. And I'm pretty sure many of you listening know this story because you were there. But yeah, it was a wild night, man. It was a wild night. Dude, I literally think dude just quit school. And if he quit school at that point, and I don't even think this had to been like maybe March. So he didn't have much time left in school for that particular semester. But yeah, bro, I don't think, I'll put it like this. And he was a business major. I saw this guy maybe 2 more times on campus after that. And I'm convinced that he left school. Now, whether or not he did or he didn't, I don't know. But the sheer embarrassment, because everybody basically was like, yo, you like transvestites or something. You know, I mean, like he was getting clowned. And the dudes who were in the room and the dudes who were lined up, they were assumed to have known. So they were getting clowned. And I remember this one guy, his girlfriend, he was in the room. Now, whether or not he said nothing happened, but he was in the room. And his girlfriend, I knew his girlfriend. And she wasn't happy. I'll just put it like that. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. She wasn't happy. But yeah, man, it was a crazy night. It was a crazy night at SC State. And I mean, again, you know, not to, you know, belabor the point, but again, I tell this story and not, you know, making light and fun of someone's sexual orientation, because to me that it doesn't matter one way or the other. I don't care what you do behind closed doors. But what was funny to me is the fact that these guys did this and they acted, and still to this day act as if they didn't know. And even if you gave them the benefit of the doubt and said that they didn't know, the only question is how do you not know, bro? I mean, you're not going anywhere with some woman in some dark place and not take a look at her. But, you know, we got those jokes off. And still to this day, we're getting those jokes off. And, you know, I haven't seen Nathan since that semester, to be honest. And if I saw him tomorrow, or if I saw him at homecoming, I'd probably laugh to myself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's.